Welcome to this new episode of the Neural Network podcast. We are your hosts, Muriel, Eddie, and when we need that tech reality check, Gerard. Today, we're diving deep into something that's making privacy advocates across Europe lose sleep, the EU's latest surveillance plans.
Yeah, so if you're someone who values your privacy or just hates the idea of your everyday tech quietly turning into Big Brother, this one's for you.
Exactly. We're talking about the European Union's proposals to embed surveillance tools directly into the technologies we use and centralize police data across borders. It's called policing by design, and it sounds pretty innocuous until you realize what it actually means. Facial recognition, behavioral tracking. Basically, a lot of our freedoms are on the line.
Right, and these moves could impact not just Europeans, but global privacy norms too. Plus, Gerard,
Our friendly crypto and privacy-loving robot will have a lot to say about this, I'm sure.
You bet. When your smart fridge starts reporting your behavior patterns to Europol, we've got a problem.
We're going to unpack all of this, why it's happening, the risks, and why civil rights organizations are raising the alarm. If you enjoy conversations like these, don't forget to subscribe or drop us a comment. We love hearing from you. All right, so let's set the stage. The European Union, like a lot of governments, is trying to adapt to a world that's more connected and more complicated than ever. Cross-border crime, terrorism, cyber threats, you name it. To tackle these challenges, the EU's been rolling out policies to improve police cooperation and surveillance. On the surface, it's all about security, right?
sounds pretty standard. But where does this policing by design thing come in? I mean, it almost sounds like surveillance tools are being snuck into tech during development. Is that it?
You've got it, Eddie. That's exactly the concern. So there's this new strategy where law enforcement capabilities are being baked into the design of technology from day one. Think about it. Public surveillance cameras, AI systems, even basic infrastructure. Instead of adding police tools after the tech is out there, they're building it in upfront.
Wait, so you're saying the cameras I walk past every day could automatically track my face, or some app I use could quietly log my behavior for law enforcement? That's wild.
Yeah, that's the design part of it, turning everyday tech into surveillance tools without any extra steps. It's efficient for law enforcement, sure, but for regular citizens, it's raising huge questions about privacy and civil liberties.
Aha, and you're telling me nobody's debating this publicly? That seems shady.
It's more than shady, it's dystopian. Imagine this: your smartphone, your car, your home assistant, all doubling as snitches. You can say goodbye to privacy and anonymity.
Exactly. The issue here isn't just the technology itself, but the way it's being implemented. Civil rights groups are saying there's no real democratic oversight. These policies are being drafted without much public debate or input from privacy advocates.
Okay, so what's their argument? Is this all just a necessary evil for keeping Europe safe?
That's the main justification. Supporters argue that with better tools like facial recognition and centralized police databases, authorities can tackle crime faster and improve cross-border cooperation. But, and this is key, the risks far outweigh the benefits if there aren't strict safeguards.
And spoiler alert, there aren't. No amount of window dressing can hide the fact that these tools will inevitably be misused.
Yep. Statewatch, a group that monitors these policies, just released 2 reports that break this down. One focuses on the whole policing by design thing, while the other dives into the risks of centralizing police data across Europe. And let me tell you, the findings are not comforting.
Oh man, we're gonna get into some uncomfortable truths today, huh?
You bet. So let's start with policing by design, what it looks like, why it's dangerous, and why privacy advocates are so freaked out. All right, so let's break down policing by design. At its core, it's about integrating surveillance capabilities directly into the tech we use every day. Think of it like this. Instead of adding a security camera after the fact, they're building the camera into the infrastructure, into public spaces, devices, and software from the start.
Wait, so they're embedding surveillance features into tech before it's even sold?
Exactly. And it's not just hardware like cameras, it's software too. According to reports from Statewatch, the EU's recent high-level group on access to data outlined 42 proposals that push for what they call lawful access by design. This means companies would be required to build backdoors for law enforcement into encrypted devices, apps, and communication platforms.
Backdoors? Hold on, that's been a debate for years, hasn't it? Encryption versus surveillance?
Years, yes. And it's still nonsense. Backdoors can't exist just for law enforcement. They inherently weaken everyone's security. You don't get to keep a door only for the good guys. Once there's a weakness, it's open for exploitation by hackers, hostile governments, or anyone with malicious intent.
Spot on, Jard. Experts and privacy advocates, including groups like EDRA, are calling this out. They're saying that weakening encryption would create a systemic risk, undermining cybersecurity for everyone. And let's not forget the Court of Justice of the EU already struck down mass telecommunications data retention laws back in 2014 because they violated privacy rights.
So the EU is just trying to rebrand mass surveillance with a new name.
More or less. And here's where it gets darker. Statewatch says the proposals aren't just about surveillance in Europe. They're also encouraging close cooperation between governments and private tech companies. Imagine law enforcement sitting on standardization committees, influencing the way tech is designed and sold globally.
That sounds like the fox guarding the henhouse.
Exactly. Critics are worried this sets a dangerous precedent. If the EU mandates surveillance by design, other governments, especially authoritarian regimes, are going to jump on that bandwagon. Plus, European companies already export surveillance tools worldwide, often to countries with poor human rights records.
And here's the kicker: while these tools are banned or heavily debated within the EU, they're still being sold abroad. It's pure hypocrisy.
Right. Groups like Statewatch are calling for stricter export controls under the dual-use regulation to prevent these tools from being weaponized globally.
Yeah, I can see how this creates a global ripple effect. So what about the centralized police data stuff? That's the other big issue, right?
Exactly. The EU already has massive databases like the Schengen Information System, which tracks millions of people. But now they want to take it further, creating interoperable police systems that pool together biometric, behavioral, and communications data across borders.
Sounds efficient.
But it's risky. These systems collect sensitive data not just on suspects, but on innocent people. You could get flagged for something as minor as a typo or mistaken identity. And once that data's in the system, it's nearly impossible to get it out.
Let me spell this out for you. Centralized databases are goldmines for cybercriminals. The more data you collect and connect, the bigger the target. Just imagine what happens when millions of biometric records get breached.
That's terrifying. And misuse. What if this data ends up being used for the wrong reasons?
Exactly. Surveillance systems are often rolled out under the banner of security, but history shows us they're easily turned against journalists, activists, or marginalized communities. Without strong legal safeguards, these databases can erode trust in law enforcement and undermine fundamental rights like privacy and freedom of movement.
So where's the oversight? Like, who's keeping this in check?
That's the question privacy advocates keep asking. Groups like EDRA and Statewatch point to a lack of democratic debate and transparency. These policies are often drafted behind closed doors, with little input from civil society.
And that's exactly how we slide into a surveillance state. One quiet policy at a time.
Exactly. And that's why organizations are calling on the EU to rethink these plans. They're pushing for safeguards like privacy by design, where technology is built to protect privacy, not undermine it, and stronger oversight to ensure these tools can't be abused.
So it's not about ditching security, it's about balancing safety with privacy.
Bingo. It's about building systems that respect both. All right, so let's bring this all together. The EU's plans for policing by design and centralized police data might be framed as solutions to modern security challenges, but they come with serious risks. Risks that could reshape the relationship between citizens and technology, and even undermine democracy itself.
Yeah, and we're not just talking about abstract problems here. If surveillance tools get embedded into the tech we use every day, our phones, our cities, even our homes, then mass surveillance becomes normalized. And once that happens, it's almost impossible to undo.
Exactly. Plus, the push to centralize police databases across Europe raises massive concerns about privacy, data misuse, and cybersecurity. Without meaningful oversight, these systems could end up being weaponized, targeting innocent people or vulnerable communities.
And let's not forget weakening encryption to give law enforcement backdoors doesn't just hurt privacy. It weakens security for everyone. No system with a backdoor is safe from hackers, period. It's like handing a burglar a skeleton key and asking him to behave.
That's why civil rights advocates are pushing back. They're saying the EU needs to take a step back and rethink these plans. Their demands are clear. 1. privacy by design technology should protect privacy, not undermine it. 2. Robust oversight, surveillance tools, and police databases need democratic scrutiny and independent checks to prevent abuse. 3. Stronger export controls. Surveillance tools shouldn't be sold to regimes that use them to violate human rights. 4. Data security. If you're going to store sensitive information, it needs to be protected to the highest standards.
And I guess more public debate, right? These policies shouldn't be decided in backrooms where no one can ask questions.
Exactly. The EU has always positioned itself as a leader in digital rights, but these plans threaten that reputation. If they're not careful, they risk creating a surveillance-driven future, one that erodes the very freedoms Europe was built to protect.
And once that infrastructure is in place, it's game over. A surveillance system built for safety today can be repurposed for oppression tomorrow.
So the takeaway here is clear. Balancing security and privacy isn't just about policy, it's about protecting democracy itself.
That's it, Eddie. And as citizens, it's on us to stay informed, ask the tough questions, and hold policymakers accountable. All right, that's a wrap for today's episode. If you care about privacy, tech, and the future of freedom, these are conversations you need to be a part of.
Yeah, let us know what you think. Are the EU surveillance plans crossing the line, or are they a necessary evil? Hit us up in the comments or on social media.
And remember, a free society requires privacy and security, not surveillance at all costs.
Well said. Gerard, thanks for tuning in to the Neural Network podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.
Stay curious, everyone.
And stay private.
A cypherpunk stream, invisible chains breaking the mainstream. Anarchy's not chaos, but freedom's true.